Thomas Frank is under increasing pressure at Tottenham following the West Ham defeat. He is, though, expected to take charge against Dortmund. So stay tuned to the very end to get my honest and updated thoughts on the Dane and his future. Because if you don't know, I've been one of his most patient and loyal supporters, but West Ham might have changed my mind. Let's just put it that way. Stay tuned to the very end. Keen to get your thoughts right now because supporting Spurs is tough at the moment and things need to change. And is that with the manager? Thank you for coming in today. If you're new, please like and subscribe. So, firstly, the latest news. David Allstein from Athletic, just before recording, said that Thomas Frank is to take today's news conference and training before Tottenham Hotspur host Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. He goes on to say, expected to continue in charge for the game in particular, as well as the training session and media duties. However, there is growing uncertainty over the head coach's role, 52-year-old, beyond that game. So, that is the latest from David Allstein. Listen, for me, West Ham changed my mind. I've been one of most Frank's, like I said in the intro, one of his most loyal and patient supporters. I believe in giving every manager time because I think we've got incompetent, unambitious, and lying owners. I think that. I don't like the Lewis family. I do not like Enoch. I think they've let this club rot. I think they have acted with a lack of ambition in the transfer window. I think they made poor appointments, poor sackings, and then they've got blood on their hands. I think if they threw Levy under the bus, I think Levy had to go. I think he's lots of problems. I think it's good for the club that he's not here. However, I do think he was a bit of a puppet and a kind of mouthpiece for a failing Enoch and Lewis family, which now Vinay is. Of course, Vinay will get criticised, but reality, the problems lie deeper than the manager and whoever the CEO or chairman or non-executive chairman will be. However, with Frank against West Ham, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that at all. West Ham were awful at the time of playing them. We're 7 points adrift. And of course, now that's changed. You give them a lifeline. So for me, that performance, those substitutions, and that result has made me change my mind because what's important is that we do not let the owners go through another manager. I think it's very important to just solely focus on Frank. Go, oh, it's Thomas Frank, it's Thomas Frank, it's Thomas Frank. But the manager isn't the problem at Tottenham. We've been doing this for years. We've gone through too many managers. Yes, poor appointments and unnecessary sackings. Pochettino, Mourinho sacked either at poor times or shouldn't have been sacked at all. But some of the appointments, Nuno, for example, maybe Thomas Frank as well, were poor appointments. I'm now Thomas Frank out after that West Ham game. Just what he says in terms of how he thought we played well and should have won 2-1. Things like that. Substitutions, taking tell off. I just think his tactics are poor, and all season we've been allowing shots from outside the box he views as low percentage chance. I think that's costing the team. So, if someone who believes in keeping with managers, I've defended Thomas Frank on this day. I have little regret and a little apologies for that. I always admit where I'm wrong, and I'm not even going to say that I'm not wrong, but I still think it was the right thing to give him this time. But I think West Ham was one step too far. We're 14th in the league. We're still the dream we compete on all four fronts. And also me giving Thomas Frank time, like I said, it's on Enoch. I give every manager time. It's not a Frank personal thing. But also with the players who got injured as well, so many players injured, I've tried to be understanding. And people say, where were you for Ange? I was also behind Ange until the very end. He gave me my best moment in Bilbao. I'd have him back in a heartbeat, even if I don't think he's 100% right for the club, purely based on that emotion and the fact that I think he should have had a third season after delivering Tottenham's first European trophy in 41 years and first major trophy in 17 years. So for me, where I stand, to be crystal clear, I am Thomas Frank out. I think Tottenham fans disrespect what he'd done at Brentford. He transformed Brentford. He took them up a whole division and has changed the football club. Frank is a good manager, but he's not a Tottenham manager. He doesn't represent to dare is to do. Enoch is the bigger problem, but Frank isn't innocent or blameless too. So Frank should go, but do not let this be a distraction from the owners, and do not let me convince you at all. But I believe it is the owners upstairs. I think it's the board and the owners. We've seen this with Frank. They're indecisive. They're not consistent. They give players mixed messages. They've got uncertainty at the moment. And I think, yes, we signed Conor Gallagher, great. Yeah, where's our winger? In the summer, 3 left wingers left the club. Timo Werner, he's loan-ended. Solomon, we sent out on loan. And the worst one of all, Son, who we sold. And then in January, Brennan Johnson was sold. Guess what? That's 4 wingers over 2 windows, 3 in the summer, 1 in January, that have left the club. We've signed 1 winger in 2 windows so far. And of course, during 1, I know, so you would say 1.5. But the point is, only 1 in Mohamed Kudus. We, when everyone's fit, I'd argue just 2, but someone say 3. So let's go 2 to 3 wingers when everyone's fit. How can that be possible? How's that depth? How's that quality? It just doesn't make any sense for me right now. we've got a poor team. So for me, I look at it and go, although it is Enoch, and though I like Thomas Frank in his career and want to give him time, I watch football with my eyes open. Yeah, despite what some people think and say, I do watch football with my eyes open, and I think we're getting worse rather than better. Bournemouth, I think, so close. Villa, I think, so good. But then West Ham, that is definitely steps backwards, no doubt about it. And the reality is, we haven't seen anything too drastic to get behind it. It's been a poor 7 months. I think Frank didn't help himself. It sounds strange, but after having such a good start, we really went toe to toe with the best team in the world at the time in Europe in PSG, and so unlucky, got undone in the final stages. Someone say through poor substitutions. I'll go just through maybe a lack of not knowing your squad well enough, and champions, in PSG doing what they do best. So we had that. Then we beat City at Etihad, which we do a lot, but still, it was a great start. First 3 or 4 games of the season, it's just been downhill, unfortunately, ever since. I think losing the likes of James Maddison hasn't helped. So Frank, for me, I think has been failed by the owners. I think he's been let down by, of course, the players that are injured, suspended. I'm not going to blame anyone for that, but he's been given a difficult situation. Right now, the squad that's fit, we should really be 9th, 10th. I do believe that. I don't think we're massively underachieving. But at the same time, when I see that against West Ham, this is the worst West Ham team that I've watched in my lifetime. And I haven't been around for long, haven't been following football for years and years, at being a young age, 17. But I haven't seen a West Ham side like this, awful defensively. And just like how we're defending and backing off is incredibly worrying. It's like Frank's watching a different game with what he's saying. So I think Frank should go. But whatever manager we have at this club, I think they walk into a club that's in a mess. The club's rotten from top to bottom. And for me, the majority of the pressure is on the owners. I don't want to spend a big video talking about the owners because that could be a separate video and I don't want to get into it. So I am Thomas Frank out. But again, at the time of recording, this is after West Ham and before the Dortmund game. If we play well, so promising signs, even get a draw with the players who've got, in particular, suspended but also injured against the Dortmund side that haven't lost, or only lost 1 game, I should say, this season, and have looked really strong, then of course that's different. But the thing is, they shouldn't keep Frank in charge if the decision's been made. I deep down, if I'm honest with you, think they've made a decision on Frank. I think they'll sack him unless something drastic happens in that Dortmund game. Even if we draw him, I think he'd be gone. Any bad result, I think he'd be gone. I think they made their mind up. I think it's ready to be announced Wednesday at some point, Wednesday, Thursday, and they're just keeping him in charge because it's too little turnover to the game. Fair enough, but I wouldn't keep him in charge if he's gone either way. He's got to have it. They've got to say to him, right, this is a last chance kind of thing, rather than he's been sacked already. We're going to give him the game. It doesn't matter. Because that's just a waste of time for everyone at the club, for the players, for the fans, and for Frank himself. I think it'd be in the best interest of everyone. Tottenham Hotspur supporters and Thomas Frank to end this partnership because there's toxicity at the moment. It's a lot in stadiums, and Thomas Frank is, as head coach, as manager, rightly gets a lot of the blame. But I think fans, most do, but because you've got a slightly new look board, a few heads and figures thrown in and a few shuffled around, and leaving Donna Cullen, for example, leaving, everyone thinks that this almost like treated as new owners. It's not new owners. It's the same owners that don't care about the football club, same owners that make false promises, same mistakes. I have no trust at all in the Lewis family or Enoch. Unfortunately, as much as Vinay maybe says the right thing, of course, it's all PR stunts. I don't blame him 100% from that. I don't blame him because he come from Arsenal or anything like that. How good he is, again, we don't know. But I am Thomas Frank out. I think just because you've got a bigger problem above you, right, doesn't mean that we should ignore the smaller problem, but it doesn't mean also that we should just target the smaller problem. So get the balance right is tough. A lot of people go, yeah, what would you do now? And I really, for me, I wanted to see Frank till the end of the year. I believe in giving a manager minimum a full season, especially the players we've got out. But the reality is, being where we are 14th, and with the games we've got coming up, the next kind of 6-7 games, no joke intended or pun intended for the younger audience, but the point is, I can only see it getting worse. We're not going to go up. With games at Man United, Newcastle, Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal. We're going to go down in the table, and that is really worrying. Tottenham, we have to be looking up, and I just really worried because West Ham, for me, I'm going to say it, West Ham are the worst team in the league because Wolves will look better in 2026. That wasn't the case now, but Burnley, even being competitive, West Ham are the worst team. There's no bias in that. They're bad defensively. Nuno might be able to make them competitive until the final day, but they're still an awful side this season, with regret to say to West Ham fans. I'm happy, of course, in the situation, but, I don't like to see badly about anyone, but the point is they're not in a good way. So that for me was humiliating because you could have been 3 or 4 goals down, no joke, if not 2 or 3, maybe more realistically in the first half. So I'm Frank out, but there's bigger problems at the club. I would sack him I would have sacked him before the Dortmund game and put this new assistant coach in charge. So that's the thing. Where do you go from here? I believe in putting an interim manager in charge to the end of the year. It's not me sacrificing the season, but I don't want them to go for another manager because he make a poor appointment and don't back them. I hate to do it in the January window as well, but we've got to do it to give them, a few more days to say, I just wish we'd done it, maybe a little bit earlier, even a couple of days. They have more time in the window, more time with the players. And this Dortmund game is massive, and Tottenham, there's no expectation going into it. Make no mistake about it. If we somehow beat Dortmund, which I don't think we will, and somehow play pretty football and even get a draw or win, then it's different on Frank. Unfortunately, I've changed my mind on the Dane, and I'm no longer behind him. He's sinking the ship, and the ship has been misled from upstairs. That's the way I view it. How do you feel about Thomas Frank? Let me know in the comments below. A lot of people say, yeah, I've finally seen the light, but I make no apologies in trying to give my manager time to turn it around because Inik the bigger problem. Thank you very much. I always admit when I'm wrong, and I've got this one wrong. I think Frank is the wrong manager for Tottenham. I'm not one that likes to always play pretty football. Of course, you like to say pretty football, but sometimes you've got to realize the balance is right. But we've been turgid under Frank and we're getting worse. Commie Spurs, how do you feel about the Dane? Should he be sacked? If so, when? It feels like a matter of time rather than if now.